Start the music.
Okay, my passengers are here. I gotta go.
Hey, and welcome. I'm Dave, and you are listening to Life Is Peachy, a nostalgia-fueled podcast that allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and albums that became the soundtrack to my life.
We'll be all the way out there, all the way. Just be out there in it, big mountains, rivers, sky. Just be out there in it, in the wild.
Growing up in the 90s, the early 2000s, and while we're at it, sharing a few memories from Her Name Is Murder Productions. As the concept of a podcast floated around in my head for most of 2020, I spent months thinking about what I wanted to say, how I wanted to convey that, and I kept coming back to the why. Why even do this? Why was I now thinking about podcasts and this need to start my own? What was missing from my life?
You. How about you? No shit.
Sharing stories. Around the world, as we were all experiencing isolation, lockdowns, and disconnection, I felt a podcast provided a platform to assemble most of the ingredients necessary in cooking up a Her Name Is Murder Productions pie.
Well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it all.
Slightly different to what I was used to, but essentially the Life Is Peachy podcast became an audio documentary. This immersive hybrid of storytelling, music, and interview followed what I would normally do when creating content with Her Name Is Murder, minus the video. And since 2009, music and video, it's been the compass to my career and my creative stamp on the world. So much of my existence is built around music. Like bricks and mortar, they are the foundations to everything. My connection to the world, to others, and most importantly, to myself. Music can act as a photo album for our lives. Albums or songs representing chapters and moments. Sonically, they are a time machine to those places, people, and memories, which we hold dear and true. And I know for a fact that life without it is unimaginable. At a time when borders were closed, this podcast would allow me the gift to still travel.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
And this leads to episode 13, celebrating 1 year of Life Is Peachy storytelling. And as I look back on why I started this podcast, I really felt it had to be done in collaboration with an album also upon an anniversary of its own. An album birthed onto the world 5 years ago during a period of time when my life and my creativity was taking shape and form like never before. Today we look back on Blue Child Collective's sophomore, Saturn Saw The Seaside, and its accompanying documentary, Building the Boat, Sailing the Seas. You may be sitting there thinking, who are Blue Child Collective? And if you Google them right now, then you may even ask yourself, Dave, what's going on and why are these guys on the podcast? Well, if you remember all the way back to episode 1, when it comes to music, I try to stick to one fundamental belief, and that is, a good song is a good song, no matter what the genre, no matter where it comes from. And growing up in a household with all flavors of music probably helped this and definitely paved the way towards discovering heavy music and being open to whatever came my way. Even artists I mentioned in episode 1 like Michael Bolton, Belinda Carlisle, they came from heavier backgrounds. And of course, Belinda's original claim to fame was from the all-female rock group The Go-Go's, and even before that, playing drums in The Germs.
We can work it out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
mastermind of Western Australia's Blue Child Collective, came from punk rock roots with his first major band, 10 Past 6. And back in 2011, these guys were the first to bring Her Name Is Murder Productions over from the East Coast to the West, a 5-hour flight in itself, from one side of Australia to the other, to direct music videos for their debut album. Citing influences and paying homage to their favorite bands like Blink-182, Foo Fighters, Incubus, and Led Zeppelin, the band would evolve on their roots to the point where they changed names and began the next chapter in their musical journey as Filthy Apes. Psychedelic grunge rock trip, vibing with the likes of Tame Impala, the Beatles, The Drive-In, and Rage Against the Machine. And if you like what you hear here, I definitely recommend checking out Filthy Apes. I'll link it all in the video description. I worked with Filthy Apes and their debut music video, Dr. Zulu, was released to the world. I was living in London. I had packed my bags, and at the end of 2014, with camera in hand and a one-way ticket, I left Brisbane for overseas, not really knowing what was going to happen and what to expect. After starting Her Name Is Murder Productions in 2009, working my ass off around the country and establishing it as one of the main independent production houses, I now felt this need to change course and go for broke. And at the exact same time, my friend Dan White was going through something similar in his own unique way. After playing music with his mates since high school and building a name and brand with them through both 10 Past 6 and Filthy Apes, Dan took the leap of faith, listening to that gut feeling, leaving those comforts to forge his own path. And this venture would take the shape through Blue Child Collective. Simply genrefied as Fluid Groove, Blue Child Collective represented a new center point that took all of Dan's musical influences and inspirations and combined them with his life experience, a vessel for him to create, express, and use his art as a means to travel and connect. Similar to myself at the time with Her Name Is Murder Productions, I wanted to use my passion, my art, to further explore myself, to grow and see more of the world and what my place within that felt like. In 2016, I would join Dan for my second summer with him on the French Mediterranean island Corsica to document the making of what would become his sophomore album, sonically diverse, exploring and deconstructing the genres of folk and funk. Saturn Saw The Seaside is a result of international collaboration and cross-pollination, a product of collective inspiration and manifestation. Today we look back on that summer and experience the storytelling of Saturn Saw The Seaside. Dan White, I'm stoked to have you here for episode 13 of the Life Is Peachy podcast. Welcome, man.
And 1 year of Life Is Peachy.
It's a party over here!
Yeah! It's a big party over here.
It's awesome, man. 5 years of Saturn Saw The Seaside and its documentary, Building the Boat, Sailing the Seas. This should be fun.
Yeah, thanks for asking, man.
Oh, dude, of course. Yeah, hey, you know what this album means to me.
Yeah, it was nice having a good listen start to finish again. I haven't done it in a little while.
Yeah, similar for myself. Maybe it's been a year.
Yeah, it's nice. Relive it.
Sing for each other and sail where you want to. Sing for each other and sail where you want to. Sing for each other and sail where you want to.
Now, we are of course here to look back on 5 years of your sophomore, but let's backtrack a little. What led to the formation of Blue Child Collective and that desire to start your own creative endeavor?
Wow, man, this one's going back because here we are in 2021, but it's nice to revisit because it's definitely a big chapter in my life.
We sold ourselves to slavery the day we separated our souls from our brothers. You know,
Blue Child was 6.5 years or so, and many albums, this being one of them, Saturn Saw The Seaside, and lots of travels and lots of amazing people. And man, I think Blue Child Collective started as a thing in 2014. It was a new beginning, really. It coincided with a big new chapter in my life. I started Blue Child Collective for a number of reasons, one of them being exactly that, to kind of put what I have in my mind into songs and really get to have a creative outlet for my own songs, as opposed to what I'd been doing up until then, which was collaborating and having input into a collective project. So even though this is Blue Child Collective, I held the vision for it and then collaborated with lots of artists over the years to flesh it out and help bring lots of different things to listeners.
'Cause I feel change in the air.
But I guess the project itself started when I moved to Margaret River in Western Australia in 2014 after plenty of travelling. That was kind of the start of Blue Child Collective.
I know I'm not the only one.
Blue Child Collective was a concept. This whole idea that we're all children hanging out on this little blue planet floating through space, just humans doing human things.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
It was definitely a new chapter, which was a nice outlet for my creativity and a lot of songs that I had, and I guess where I was at the time as well. You grow and you change as the years go by. Your beliefs change, your friends change, and the place that you live changes maybe, but it's nice to look back on things like this, even though it's fairly recent history. But it's nice to look back on projects like this and listen to albums start to finish that you recorded 5 years ago and have memories flood back and kind of relive those experiences and think about the people who are involved with those projects. It's nice.
Definitely.
'Cause I feel change in the air. Oh,
When you began Blue Child Collective, did you ever consider it as an opportunity or a vessel to travel with your music and see more of the world?
To be able to travel the world and play songs in different countries to different people and different cultures. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I started up Blue Child Collective in 2014, I'd been traveling every year through Europe, also other parts of the world, and yeah, absolutely wanted to travel. I wanted to play my songs everywhere to like millions of people as much as possible. Yeah, 100%. Who doesn't? And man, we got to do that. We played shows all over the world. I haven't got to the Americas yet though, but other than that, lots of traveling was done, lots of shows.
Oh, if you find yourself drinking from the cup, but never having had enough, it's a sign for you to find me standing on the jetty.
I counted up the shows that I'd done throughout my life the other day, and we're up over 1,000, which is pretty mental.
Wow, man. Yeah, I mean, there was a period there where I just didn't know how you did it.
I don't know how I did it.
you never stopped. I was like, when the hell do you sleep?
And then I'd come home and it'd be summer in Margaret River and it'd just be on.
A little juice.
Here I'm listening to you. Now I feel change in the air.
It's tourist season and every winery and brewery and every live music venue wants something happening, and I wasn't going to say no. I mean, that really helped fund a lot of the travelling, to be honest. I think we're really lucky here in Australia in terms of the earning capacity we have from shows. Being a mid-tier artist, but having that here in Australia helped fund albums, it helped fund tours. When you're starting out, you're not making bank from touring. You're touring to get your music out there and inspire yourself and others and write new songs and spread the word and meet new people.
I'd been living in London for less than 6 months and everything fell apart, man. Not even sure what my next move was going to be, and for months I battled back and forth with whether I should just pack it all up and head back to Australia with my tail between my legs, you know. I received a call early 2015 inviting me to join yourself for a summer on the French Mediterranean island, Corsica, with the initial idea being to document everything and compile that footage for a music video. And to be honest, when you called, I actually had no idea where Corsica was, but after Google imaging the place, it didn't take much convincing. How did you first end up in Corsica? And what was the main thing you took away from that first experience when you came back to Australia?
Man, it comes back to traveling, eh? Like, when you travel, it's like you're jumping in this big river and you're kind of going with the flow and you're meeting new people and exposing yourself to whatever the fuck the world wants to throw at you. And that's how I ended up in Corsica. I was in a little place in Western Australia, the northwest, remote WA, called Shark Bay. And I walked into this backpackers for the night, and there was a group of people playing poker at this table, and one of them, Chris, who ended up being my booking agent and manager over in Corsica, was like, hey, come play poker. So that's how I met Chris.
Connection with people, sometimes you can't explain them. I reckon with Danny, it's simply love music and ocean.
I spent a couple of days with them in Shark Bay back in 2014. They were heading back to France after a couple of years on a working holiday here in Australia. And he said, hey man, come and visit us when you're in Europe next. We're in Corsica. You're welcome. It'll be summer. We'll go to the beach. It'll be fun as. I was literally going to Europe a few months later, and I did exactly that. I stopped by Corsica for about a week. It was great. It was amazing. They showed us around. I even played an off-the-cuff gig last minute. Obviously, had my guitar with me, and Chris and his mate Flo were talking about starting a booking agency. And so he was like, man, do you want to come back next year, being 2015? We'll book you a whole bunch of shows. It'll be awesome. You can play the whole summer in Corsica, which it's a big tourist island, and so it's very similar to Margaret River. There was a big, let's do summer in Margs, and then we'd go do summer in Corsica.
Yeah,
and play a whole bunch of shows, and we'll do some recording. It was originally just meant to be me, but then in the interim I started playing with Matt Edmund on drums and Lindsay Baker on sax and harmonica, and I just hit up Chris. I was like, man, do you want to have the band over and we'll play shows as a three-piece all summer? He said, yeah, let's do it. So we did. We played a bunch of shows, and there's a doco about that summer.
Yeah, sorry. Just to quickly cut in, that original idea of creating a music video incidentally evolved into a full-fledged feature-length documentary called Blue Child.
You just inherited a big problem.
You're the editing master. part of that was recording as well, because I thought, man, we're over on this beautiful island playing shows all the time. We need to record something. We need to capture this moment. Albums are moments in time, especially if you're playing a lot. You're meant to be on fire. So I thought, right, is there a recording studio anywhere here? And it was the one that we ended up recording Saturn Saw The Seaside in. We just did a couple of days there as a trial. I think we did 3 days in 2015 while we were over there playing shows. I just wanted to get one song down, maybe play around with a couple others. And JB, the producer, is just such a lad. And it was such a nice place. And I mean, it was really, really beautiful. And I just thought, man, I would love to come back here and record an album. And so then from that moment in 2015 in Corsica in the mountains, everything just became geared towards going back the next year to Corsica, recording a motherfucking album in the mountains in this studio. But I guess that's my big takeaway from 2015.
To come back.
Yeah, it was like we did the groundwork. We got to come back and record an album.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, damn, I've already made a feature-length documentary. What's next?
Yeah.
After releasing that self-titled EP and your debut album, Rivermouth, what were your hopes and dreams when entering the writing process of your sophomore album? Where did you feel you were at as a creative, and what did you want to say with these new songs you were now writing?
Saturn Saw The Seaside was always meant to be a concept album and a story start to finish, both in the artwork and the songs themselves. I wanted it to be like a cohesive piece of art. I don't know about you, but I really like concept albums that fall under a common theme. It's nice, it doesn't have to be a concept album. Like, I love normal albums as well. I love all sorts of albums, but I just really wanted to do a concept album. And so I got all these songs that I've been playing around with as far back as 2015, most of them written on the road, some at home. I just dove straight into pre-production, I guess, when I got back from Corsica in 2015. We had 9 or 10 months until we went back, and so I just started demoing stuff and getting the idea in my head and starting to go back and forth with JB, the studio in Corsica, Studio Angelina. I guess that's when the creative gears started really turning,
For this adventure, you were joined by fellow creative and your partner MJ, Mr. Sax and Harmonica, Lindsay Baker, and myself in 2016 for what would be now known as the summer in which Saturn Saw The Seaside was recorded. Captured by Jean-Bernard Rongiconi, aka JB, at Studio La Angelina, elevated 160 meters up in the mountains of Corsica, a little village, 15 square kilometers to be precise, Valle di Rostino, a fitting scene to harbour the creation of something described as an odyssey of sound, story and sentiment, a concept album following a man on his whirlwind journey through the cosmos, delving largely into themes of connection, consciousness, the universal journey, and humanity's path within this. Nice. Subtle, simple, bookended topics of discussion right there, mate.
Yeah.
What led to your decision committing to making an album overseas at Studio La Angelina?
I think one of the biggest things was just that it was mad. It was just fucking crazy. Here we are in this studio on this pirate island. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. It's so beautiful. It's so poetic, built by the producer JB. His grandfather with stones from the mountain and a donkey and cart, and it was a barn, and he decked it out, and it's just so beautiful. And the three of us were coming from halfway across the world and recording there for a month, and the costs involved and the time involved and everything that went into making that a reality.
Bring me that horizon.
See the sounds moving waves across the bays of our hearts,
including yourself, documenting the whole process and the story behind it, all the artwork from MJ as well. It was huge, man. I'd never done anything that big and that ambitious before. It cost a mint, and for me personally, it was like, sweet, bring it on. This is a great challenge. I'm gonna bust my ass here in Margaret River, saving up the money to record this thing, put all my time into doing the pre-prod, just try to be as involved as possible and really do the best job I can.
So much groundwork, hey?
man, I think it was just a massive challenge, and I just really wanted to prove to myself that I could climb those kind of mountains, keep leveling up, both as a creative and a musician in business, in so many aspects of my life.
And just remember, if you want something in life, reach out and grab it.
You open up to worldly wisdom, yeah. You open up to worldly wisdom. No. Hey.
It was the peak. It was the pinnacle, you know? Like, it was on a mountain.
Yeah,
and it was the mountain. And I just wanted to climb it, man. I don't know, there was never any doubt in my mind. There's always things you can do better, and maybe I would have made different decisions based on what I know now. I think that's always the case in anything, but man, at the time, everything was pointing towards that. There was no reason why I shouldn't do it. And I feel like coming out the other side of that, I was a different person, you know?
Take this shell, hold it close against your ear, and quiet now, and all the oceans you will hear in your hands, through a natural instrument with which you can call Poseidon to attention.
You talk about coming out on the other side and metaphorically climbing mountains in between sessions, or when we had a late morning start, you and I were literally climbing mountains for hours. I mean, we were surrounded by them. It was all so surreal. It was an adventure in the truest sense.
Living and breathing it, eh? It was just a big achievement, a big thing that we did.
Yes, exactly. Living and breathing it.
It was a really exciting time for me as well, because it was the first time I'd ever been to Corsica, so I really felt inspired to make a documentary about exploring this beautiful country using Blue Child's music as the soundtrack. Whereas this time around, I was really interested in the month we were having in the mountains, and I really wanted to focus on just making a studio documentary. And within that studio is a character in itself and has a story to tell and has an influence on the music that was created there, and also obviously the documentary.
White boat on the blue floats.
So, how did that then impact the making of the album? Did Corsica itself and experiences happening during that summer in 2016 influence the album, or any in-the-moment decision-making?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for a start, the studio and the people in it do so much for setting the vibe. I think it was like the vessel, this little teacup that the storm was happening in. It definitely lends a distinct flavour to the end product, the sound itself, the songs themselves, and sure, the decision making too. It was just the three of us and JB and a couple other musos coming in and out, and 40 local residents of this tiny little town. Yeah.
Right. And just to paint the scene a little bit more, on the same piece of land where Studio La Angelina was situated was an additional house, a full-fledged, beautiful house where myself, you and MJ were living. Sicilian architecture, breathtaking views.
But yearn for a real way to glow in the night and replenish our side as we roll.
We'd wake up each day and do our individual morning routines. I'd love to go for a run, or we would explore the surrounding areas together, drive to the beach, whatever. And then when Judy called, we walked all of the 10 meters from home to the studio for the day's work. And lunch, dinner, so much great food, amazing cooking, the weather. My creative and personal battery was fully charged.
Seaweed, sunset, another day you must let go now to allow a greater one to happen. The rudder, you feel it shake and shudder. Send love to all your mothers and set out now to discover the clouds. Now relax and drift into the sound.
We were just in it. It was nice to be able to have more time than was necessary to just totally immerse ourselves in this one project and make it everything. Big lesson in terms of project management, time management, financial management, people management, and so much more. Yeah, the fact that it was done so far away from home, it changes the game.
Glow in the night and replenish outside as we roll, 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 roll.
Start communicating with the producer. You know, like me and JB just ended up developing our own language, I reckon. You know, it's like half French, half English, everything in between. Had all our sayings, it was great, and I'd know exactly what he meant. You know.
Musician from Margaret River, Western Australia, up in the mountains, tucked away in Corsica. You guys were speaking through the music and this experience, and that was an absolute trip to document. But there, like you said, was still this language and a clarity, and you could tell he loved it. I guess it was something quite different from what he was used to working with.
So we grow, so we grow. So I sit and speak to you.
Walk us through a typical day. What comes to mind, and what did living up in the mountains in that village entail?
Man, if I had to sum it up in a word, it would be wholesome. It was just really wholesome. It was so good. Just the three of us living in this little creative bubble, and I'll tell you a story that kind of sums it up. We were recording, and Lindsay Baker was with us recording a lot of his sax parts. JB's neighbour up the back, this little old Corsican lady, bent over in her 80s and so lovely, came over and invited us to come up to her place and bake some chestnut bread. Chestnut flour is like a real thing there in Corsica, and it's beautiful, it's delicious, and she wanted to show us how to make it and make some together, and then we'd have dinner, and we're like, cool, this is perfect, we'll go over next door to the little old lady's house and bake chestnut bread. And it was just really wholesome and really nice, and sure enough, we learnt how to bake chestnut bread.
And keeping in mind that she did not speak a word of English.
So open up your heart, you open up your heart.
Come back and Lindsay's done his part, and we'd all listen to it together, and it's great. Oh, this is awesome, and have dinner together, and it was just really wholesome and really about people and fun and love and just good times and sharing of culture too. I think that was a big thing, both for us but also for everyone else there, man. The reality was there was a few people from across the world somewhere, Australia of all places, in this little town in the mountains of Corsica, where there's like 40 people living in this village who many of them have never even seen anyone from Australia before. And it was just so beautiful to be able to share cultures, like showing all their gardens and how they live their lives.
Our ability to really be a taller tree inevitably to grow. And we grow.
And then in turn, share a bit of ours. Like, we had JB doing yoga before. Do you remember that? Before sessions to like relax. And like, sure enough, it doesn't take long for word to get around, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's gone mad. The Australians have him doing yoga." JB's like, "Yeah, man,
we've corrupted him.
It is good."
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah,
What
wholesome,
is the problem?
man. What's the problem?
The singer is good. The girl to the singer is so good. Sing well, they cook well, the musicians are great. The cameraman is straight on. What is the problem?
Yeah, man, and amazing producer. It was just great.
I love it when he was trying to emphasize that everything happening is perfect. What is the problem? Man, he is such a quotable guy. He's like a character from a movie or something.
When we do music, life is good.
No complications.
No girl, no money. Perfect.
More money, more problems, mate.
Yes. Only dog.
It was so much fun for me to just leave the camera on him, continuously rolling.
Stop this. Okay, we have to cut all this shit I say. Because next year, don't Pierre say me, say, so many stupid things.
You're a wizard, JP. Yeah, we were just in the presence of some amazing people, that's for sure.
Yeah, so let's hear about that, man. The players on this thing, because the musicianship on Saturn Saw The Seaside is...
mental. So we had a couple of session players from France join us on drums and bass. Roger Biwandu on drums, who is an absolute weapon. I mean, they both are. But does, in my opinion, everything just flawlessly.
First impression on Daniel music is fresh, original, very personal, and I felt right away his connection with the ocean.
It was such a privilege to be able to work with both of them. The bass player was Kevin Reveron, and I spent a bit of time before they came to the studio. I think we had about a week of me laying down a lot of guide parts and just really kind of got the structure happening and really tried to get down as much as possible. And then when they rolled into town, we just went into this 3-day bubble of just rhythm. Just the rhythm section was in town, and it was all about locking in.
It's up here. You can be here. Me and you.
What would they think if we gave it up to the moment? If we just did something fun for once, with some love, could we transcend the game? Well, I would spend all day making paper mache and being, and I spend all night sleeping out in the moonlight. I know that I got it right. Hey, I'm slowing down.
Man, credit to them, because I listened back to this album and I hear a lot of flaws, absolutely. I mean, you compare songs on this album to what I'm doing now, obviously you're always going to improve, and I think artists are shockers for being really harsh critics of their own work, obviously, but I have even more respect for these guys being able to lock in with me, because I thought I was pretty on point at the time and being able to play with other musicians. But some songs on there for sure I wish I hadn't played as fast, or I played in different ways, and their ability to just come in and lock in with what I presented to them was just absolutely incredible. I feel like they reined me in largely, in so many ways, and for them to gel and to make it cohesive, the two of them together, it was, absolutely amazing. We spent half a day just workshopping the songs, we got the sections and mapped it all out, and I think that's an important part of the process for any band or any artist working in the studio with session guys who are fresh to these songs. They picked it up straight away. It was a real pleasure to work with those guys. A few days later, we had songs, and then we kind of built on it from there.
You were talking about how, as artists, we are essentially our own worst enemy. I'm in the same boat with my video work, and even just the other day, I was listening back to episode 1 of the podcast for some retrospect, and I was thinking, but over time, as we grow and evolve, it's so easy to look back in retrospect and see or hear all the things we would change and do differently. For years, man, I couldn't even watch most of my music video back catalogue because of how much I dissected it and wished I'd done this or that. But it's actually really nice now because I can just watch my stuff as moments in time and remember where I was at personally and creatively when making and releasing them. It's a lot more enjoyable now, and I'm really thankful that that is the case, because otherwise it's like a dog chasing its tail.
Slow it down for me, yeah. 'Cause I'm struggling to keep up with you.
I think with any songs, some stand the test of time and you still get something out of them years later, and others fall by the wayside. I look at it in two different ways now. Like, one, man, that song, the song itself, like the lyrics and the structure and just like that as a song is awesome and I love it. And then the other side of the coin is that recording is amazing, you know? Sure. There's some songs on here which I love still to this day. Sailor's song is like, I love that song because it's like a poem, a story, and there's something about it. Cal Barry as well. I love that song still, and that recording for me still kills it. Like, there's stuff I'd do different, but just everything about it. Lindsay's sax and harmonica work, it's a vibe.
Oh, brother, walk and we walk and we walk. Oh, Father, talk to me, talk to me, talk. Earth, Mother, what can we do for you? Sing for each other and sail where you want to.
People still pick up on it. We had it played recently by ABC here in Australia. They were doing a thing on Cal Barry and they called me up. They're like, hey, you've got this song, can you tell us a bit about it? And I told them the story about walking along the Red Cliffs and seeing the whales, and I think the stories of some of these still live on.
Feel for the world, for your journey is homeward bound. History is turning, the pages are burning now. And I'm feeling the waves of this change as they ripple around to the furthest reaches of our collective mind. And I sing for us all because I know it's time.
I'm doing a wedding this weekend here in Margaret River. The bride and groom are all Blue Child fans, and they specifically requested that we play a bunch of our old stuff. I have a new drummer now, and our keys and trumpet player joined Blue Child in maybe start of 2018. So it was obviously post the Saturn Saw The Seaside era, and there were some songs on there that he never learnt because we weren't playing them that had already kind of fallen by the wayside. But Drifter is still one. We ran it with the band, and man, that song is awesome. Yeah, and Slow. I don't know, there's some good songs on there I still love. It's nice to listen to them all, and they each have their place, but I must admit, it's been a little while since I listened to the album start to finish, and it's nice. It's still a journey, man. unbiased opinion, because I attach a lot more to these songs than probably most people, you know.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, the same could be said for me. And maybe I do have my beer goggles on, but I have such a special place for this album. And what I also love about all of this is that with the music, MJ's artwork, the video content, it's a full package. And because of that, it really does feel like this album takes the listener on this kind of out-of-body experience. If you're up for it, you really fall into the story.
Sing for each other and say where you want to.
What I really have enjoyed about my summers in Corsica is the fact that I really get to become part of the place, and I get to slot in with people in the community. The more time you have in a place really allows for something deep to grow. It becomes a lot more than just a job or a product. It really becomes your life, and the job becomes a part of your soul.
Nous sommes tous des soleils, des sources d'énergie qui rayonnent et interagissent sur chacun d'entre nous. Nous résonnons de lumière d'or, brûlant toujours plus fort et plus intensément à chaque moment, pour briller, grandir et s'élever.
It's a world, and I'm just so happy that people can step inside it and enjoy it. One of these days I'll sit down with the booklet and read through the lyrics and look at all MJ's illustrations as I listen to it, and then watch the documentary, the making of, afterwards as well. Like the full package, you know?
Well, it's been a while since I arrived here, and the world has changed in many ways with each and every day. They say we're moving forward, I say we're on a hell of a ride.
My best years are behind me. Yeah, I'm just gonna watch that doco every Friday night for the rest of my life. Yeah, hey Sonny, see how good looking I used to be?
Before I started eating croissants and cheese in France every day.
No shit, eh?
The food is good.
So tell me, what does this album mean to you today, and how does that period of your life stack up in the story of Blue Child Collective and the band's back catalogue?
Oh man, it's right up the top. That time there in Corsica recording that album was, you know, the golden years of Blue Child Collective. That was the heights, man. We were playing gigs overseas and recording songs overseas and meeting new people and creating just awesome stuff with amazing people like yourself. Yeah, artists and other musicians, and man, it was everything that Blue Child Collective was meant to be. That collective working with and collaborating with other artists and traveling the world and kind of just beaming out this idea of connection.
Now together we can do wonders, and naturally I'd like us to be the best. We can be, always evolve into a higher seated nest. And it's a home for every one of us, and commands respect because we're part of it.
This album just like perfectly encapsulates it. So much of what Blue Child Collective stood for and what it was all about, it permeates every level of this album. We built on that. The following couple of years we turned into another album, and I don't know if you climbed to the top of Mount Everest and then you threw a ladder up or something. You kept going.
That's it?
Yeah, everyone's like that. You kick your goal, cool, what's next? Where can we go to? But yeah, man, it was definitely an Everest. It was a big game changer, and like I wouldn't be who I am now without having done it.
What am I gonna do? Hey, oh no. Said, what am I gonna do? Yeah. I leave my ripple in the ocean, and I leave my blessings at the altar, and I see my reflection in the ultimate image. Yeah. Hey.
When you reached out for me to come over in 2015, I was packing my bags and wondering whether I should go back home. I was shipwrecked and needed something to help keep me moving forward. Came at one of my first major crossroad moments while living overseas, leading up to finally getting out of London and realizing the things I did and didn't want from my life on the other side of the world. And that's one thing London definitely showed me, and now in retrospect I'm actually grateful for. Through those first 6 months, it presented more clarity in envisioning what I wanted to chase with my work and what my life should look like within that. And I can say it now, but strangely enough, it was somewhat necessary to have experienced all of that in order to be where I am today. And when I moved overseas with Her Name Is Murder Productions, I wanted to explore the world, and I wanted to try and create my own one within it through my video work, through my camera. And I felt like I was living that out in Corsica.
Felt my mind begin to change. Yes, I guess we'll go that way. But I know it wasn't a mistake. You know I'm happier for it.
And so it goes without saying that that became one of my first major adventures overseas with my work. You know, out on the road, telling stories through documentary filmmaking. And after listening through the album again recently, all the memories came whirling back. And that's the power that music can have, you know, to teleport us to a time and place. That photo album that flicks through right before our eyes.
First we crack the shell, then we crack the nuts inside.
Hey, run, Blaster! Save yourself!
No way, two can play.
When I was a kid, I would create action movies in the backyard with my Transformers, Army Men, and all my cars, and map out scenes, call out direction, do all the sound effects, the music, the dialogue, everything. And these were my first productions before I even knew I wanted to do film. Did you have an outlet, or did you share your storytelling in other ways before you started writing and playing music?
Oh man, I started playing music pretty young. It's always been the thing. I started playing guitar when I was 9, and I started writing songs not long after. Sure, you draw pictures and stuff when you're a kid, and you play around and you use your imagination. And I don't know what I did before it was music, what that outlet was, but as soon as songwriting was a thing, I was just doing my best to try and figure out how I could create the best thing using that format of music and lyrics. And I guess for me it's always been music, that's for sure. And then from there I've branched out. It's kind of been the opposite. As opposed to trying out lots of things and then rolling with music, it always was the thing.
Why did I spend my time with down on my mind? The very best years of my life were wasted cause I was blind. So rewind, see that you are afraid.
Once I was deep in music, started experimenting with other ways to give depth to those songs, and man, really have people like yourself to thank for bringing those dreams into real life, because honestly, things like the making of this album, that documentary that you made, it's a window, man. It tells so much, conveys so much that the songs aren't necessarily able to. Just really enriches the whole experience and gives people a really incredible opportunity to delve pretty deep into the idea behind this album and this world. Get a bit of a taste of a little island called Corsica and some pretty amazing people. It's a real gift, man. Thank you.
You were very welcome, man. It's my pleasure. You know, I would sometimes joke to family saying if this documentary wasn't a prime tourism ad for Corsica, or at the very least Valle de Rostina, then I have no idea what is.
Sell that shit.
I think I missed a career calling, man. Tourism for Corsica.
That's alright, we'll get the next album funded.
That I'm gonna see the real me in every energy. To see me in every energy.
I noticed as 2020 continued on and the world as I knew it was changing, the capacity of my work was naturally doing the same. I was very much used to sharing my time and energy between editing from home and, on the flip side, exploring, meeting new people and having new experiences through working with bands, either in the capacity of shooting music videos or documenting them on the road, touring, in the studio. Either way, I was very much in the fortunate position of capturing and sharing stories, and I was definitely privileged to be doing what I loved, working hard with what I was passionate about, and to share that existence with others. And just like so many of us, unexpectedly, things flipped, things changed, and suddenly here we were at a crossroads, confronted with how to evolve, move forward, and stay in the game. Over the last 1 to 2 years, with the time spent away from touring because of COVID restrictions, did you find yourself putting a lot more emphasis on other aspects of your craft? What things did you put into place to keep moving forward?
That initial lockdown period, 2020, that was, I guess, the time for me when I put Blue Child to bed and I started working on Brightsider and Moon and Honey, birthing a new thing and putting my energy into something new. It was cool because you would have known, you go very insular, there's no one really around and you get to reflect on a lot of things, and it was nice,
When it could have been open wide to the other side of living, where all is love and you feel the trust in humans. No, be a part of it, no, we'll start to shift in circles back to the beginning, while the salt spray softens my heart.
I just knuckled down and got really serious about recording at home, so I got a good setup, decked out my studio a little bit, and figured, if I'm going to be home all the time, I may as well learn more, because I'd always been really interested and I'd done demos and stuff, but I'd never actually got to the point where I'd put out stuff that I'd actually recorded. So now it's really cool because all the stuff that I'm putting out with Brightsider, I've recorded all myself, apart from the drums.
Ah, that's really great, man.
Yeah, which is sick.
Yeah, so cool. So
yeah,
cool.
Totally.
I'm amazed at all the lines I've drawn around you, which represent the truth. I get the feeling that one day.
Now for me, it's just day by day, dude. I find that's the easiest way to go about it all and best for my mental health. One day at a time, because one of the hardest parts with all of this I found was that continual disappointment and frustration that came from plans continuously falling through, being cancelled or postponed over and over because of things beyond our control, and the energy spent and then exasperated through this constant process was completely draining.
I said rough transitions tend to leave you in a better position. No, now I'm going to catch you right through another kind of wisdom, where all is love circles back to the beginning, while the soul spray softens my heart.
Oh, it's so much better. You're losing less money, you're not hanging your hopes, and investing time in like massive tours and massive projects that get shot down at the last second. Dude, I've been in exactly the same boat. I haven't even thought about touring or doing anything outside of writing and recording. For that exact reason, I'm looking at all these bands. I don't blame them, you know. A lot of them are at a point in their careers where like one solid tour will really break them. But I know bands who have postponed national and international tours 4 times, bro.
Yeah,
cancelled
horrible.
flights, everything.
I had to try and find a way to stay creative, focused, productive, and driven on, like I said, a day-by-day basis, and this podcast really helped with that.
Yeah, you know what's up? I'm doing what you're doing.
It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
And at the end of the day, I'm still healthy and alive, so yeah,
Fuck yeah.
It's all good. That's what's most important.
Live, Dave.
Yeah. One more doco with Dan White.
We're living in a sci-fi movie, bro.
Okay, so obviously a lot of people that listen to this podcast, of course, listen to and love heavy music. And I have this thing where I'm listening to certain songs, or there are moments or riffs on Saturn Saw The Seaside where I convert it to something heavier, or I feel it could easily translate to a heavier version of itself. It's like I'm creating heavy covers of the song, and I think it works really well. Even some of the songs as a whole could easily be reinterpreted or covered by bands and reimagined that way. I don't know if there's a question here or even if there's an answer in that, but how have some of your roots in heavy music, and I'm not talking about heavy metal, but your experiences writing and playing in punk rock bands, psychedelic post-rock bands, you know, whatever it may be, how have those various genres or forms of heavy music perhaps gone on to influence how you play or how you write or compose music and structure songs? Say even with this album specifically.
You're just a big old fuzz pedal, Dave. I should play songs through you and turn them into metal songs.
Happy to be of service. I've taken the liberty of putting together a montage, a Dave selection, if you will, of moments from Saturn Saw The Seaside that I jam up in my head with a degen nu metal filter in mind.
So open up your heart, you open up your heart. Yeah, yeah. Our ability to really be a taller tree, inevitably to grow. And we grow, and we grow, and we grow. And we grow, and we grow, and we grow. So we grow, so we grow, so we grow, so we grow in the night and replenish outside as we roll, 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 roll. But I lost my wager with the rolling seas, and yes, I certainly paid for it. No, I'm a drifter, and that's the way I like it. if you find yourself drinking from the cup, but never having had enough, it's a sign for you to find me standing on the jetty with a herbal in my hand. And a day that's void of plans, won't you join me on my light blue ocean outlook, coupled with a good book which reflects all of the choices that it took to make your life all that it was. And I hope that you can declare to yourself above the solid physical realm that all you did was all you've gone down there to do. And I say,
yeah, I think I've even mentioned this to you before, and like I said,
sure.
I don't even know if this makes sense or there's an answer to this, but I guess I wanted to pick your brains a bit with it.
Oh man, I reckon in my mind, everything leaves its mark, whether it's music or a life experience, whatever, but everything leaves its mark. And sure, you can hear all the other bands, all the other songs, all the other sounds that I've made, all the other things that I've played in these songs. I think I actually said that in the doco somewhere even. You hear all the other musicians, their life story in these songs as well, you know, and I think that stands, man. That's just come back to me now, but 100%, yeah, I played in punk bands and grunge bands and all sorts over the years leading up to this, and this album is about maybe as acoustic as it gets in terms of songs that I've put out in the world in my time as a songwriter and a recording artist. But yeah, sure, I don't doubt for a second that some of that other stuff found its way in there somehow. Each informs the other. All these genres, all this knowledge, all these skills and all these things you pick up on over your life, they all go in this big melting pot, I reckon. That's the melting pot that you draw on when you're writing. The filter is there, sure, to an extent. You might be writing a metal song and you'll be like, cool, I'll use these pedals because this is how I can get this sound. I'll approach my guitar in this way because this fits with what I deem to be this genre of music and this sound that I'm trying to get to. Adding bits and pieces and taking bits and pieces away, and it's all coming from the same place, like some creative well inside of you that has just been filled up by everything. So 100%. I don't think I wrote that album with any specific heavy elements in mind, but I don't doubt that there's some things I picked up or that I learned from playing all of those other songs throughout the years that made their way into these songs. That's for sure.
And there you have a B-side from Saturn Saw The Seaside.
Huh?
Just kidding.
It's interesting listening back now too, based on where I am, and listening to what those sounds became. I listened to songs like Slow, and I was very much like, no, this is going to be an acoustic album, you know, putting that filter on it. But now, years later, I would do it completely different to the album. I do it different to the album. I don't think I've played Slow, or Drifter for that matter, on an acoustic guitar in years. From there, those funky elements that made their way onto this record, sure, there was bits and pieces on Rivermouth and before that, but from there, like, it really became its own thing, and that eventually became Brightsider. More funk, more love of like soul, even elements of R&B, you know? It grew and it morphed and it became its own thing. So like, if you imagine this big old sand vial, the top is like all of the music that you have made and the songs that you've heard over the years, that creative well. Then the current project is that little point in the middle. For the sake of this chat, that point in the middle where it's all converging is Saturn Saw The Seaside and that album. And then out the other side, the future where we are now, is all these other things that becomes. Songs like Salt Spray became Moon and Honey, the duo project with my partner MJ. Heaps folkier, completely different. Songs like Slow or like Drifter, they're on the same record in this instance, but now I would put them on completely different albums. Yeah, it's a really interesting album for that reason as well, I think, because I was kind of confused creatively at the time. I wanted to experiment with lots of different sounds, and I had one project, one outlet for it all, which was Blue Child Collective, so it became really diverse, man, and that's why you hear stuff like that all on one record, and who knows, maybe there's some metal shit going on too.
Come on. Hey, come on. No, yeah. 'Cause I'm a drifter.
talked about the documentary being a window into this whole project. Especially during this period, 2015 to 2017, you and I were creating a lot of content together.
This is all we have. This is all we have. We have nothing else. We don't even get to keep our fucking bodies. But this lasts.
Blue Child, a feature-length documentary in 2015, Building the Boat, Sailing the Seas in 2016. On top of that, there's a buffet of music videos from this album and the next, more than half a dozen. All of this stuff will of course be linked in the video description, and I've created a playlist over on the Lit YouTube. Go check it out if you're interested.
You don't want to take it to this dance to take
I just love having the opportunity to immerse myself into my work, living and breathing the places and experiences through my camera, and really becoming a part of what's happening in the moment, not just for the artist, but for myself. So working with music I enjoy, bands I either grew up with or love listening to, it makes sense why what I do for work complements myself and my interests. Audio and visual have always gone hand in hand in providing this for me. So why was it a priority for you to have the marriage between sound and visual on Saturn Saw The Seaside and have this window for people to see in during that period of Blue Child Collective and your life?
I'm a musician, but I know that humans are visual creatures. Unless you're blind, we lean on our sight more than anything. I'm working within the realm of sound and hearing. I'm an auditory artist, but I am not going to deny the importance that a visual aspect of art informs the art as a whole and the role that it plays in our human experience of anything. It's so important. I don't know how many hours a day you spend on your smartphone. That's why music videos are a thing. I've got this song, I want to give people more. Cool. Give them something visual first. What, are you going to sell smelling salts with your CD? Like, yeah. Here's what this album smells like.
Vegetable group. Damn, that's all. Put them on a pedestal, bro. Look at that. Yeah. It's a kill, huh?
Sure, some musos do it. They might give a butt away or something. Like. It's music videos, man. And then you go the next step, which you have so well, is like take it to another level and do docos and interviews. And I think you can just really get so much more and assimilate so much more information and understanding and meaning by seeing things. You know, that's why body language is so important. I could say,
Life is peachy.
And based on how my face looks, it could mean something completely different. There's just only so much that I can convey, just sonically.
Take real pleasure in seeing something take form. This has been a really fun process because it's not just my imagination, it's Dan's imagination too.
I mean, beyond that, you got to put it in the hands of professionals like yourself and MJ, who worked directly on this album, that already have those skills, and that's your medium of expression. And so why wouldn't I work with amazing people like yourselves to put something together? It's just so important, the visual aspect.
Living in an oceanic paradise makes you look at the world through another kind of eye.
I put a really high value on the legacy. Number one priority, record songs, release them. If I'm not recording, releasing songs, I'm not a songwriter. There's nothing to look back on and listen to. It's a top priority, bro. Otherwise, how would we be doing what we're doing right now? Looking back, you know, have a documentary to watch, which stands as a testament to all of that time, that work, all those people, the places, everything that went into it, you know? The videos, man, they're irreplaceable. It's such an important thing in my eyes. I can't wait to go for the next round and punch out a whole bunch more.
Living for the first time with the land in sight. With a smile on my face and a twinkle in my eye.
I get so much from celebrating music through the visual platform. It gives me so much and enriches my life. I had to continue it somehow during COVID. I had to keep celebrating music, albums, songs, and artists.
Cause if you were a wiser man, you might come swimming in the blue and become anything down here. Anything down here. All that you can hear, it all becomes so clear. Now ride the swell lines up and down, right across the seas till you reach your town, where the waters whisper simple tunes that you've spent your whole life humming to. Now sit and be rooted like the trees, and you will come to see that you have sailed on your own breeze and drifted for a reason, for you needed to be seated before you could open up and see that there are many roads to freedom, and you better believe that love is the highest form of feeling. And even when you bleed, your blood is flowing in agreement, and never say no to the power that you hold. Cause from these sticks and stones you can construct a sturdy boat to bear you across the ocean, to a love you've always known.
It's just really interesting how everyone has their album or their song. It represents a time, it just speaks to them in the right moment about the right thing. Whatever you're getting through, if it's COVID, depression, maybe nothing, you're just enjoying your life and it becomes the soundtrack to your summer.
Well, that's essentially the backbone to believing I couldn't go wrong with starting the podcast. At the end of the day, every single one of us has some form of connection with music. We all have a song. I really believe this, and it's something we can all relate to and find some sort of common ground with.
Living for the first time in our lives.
The beautiful part about it is we have our own individual tastes and attractions with music, and that can be just for us. And then sprinkled within that are particular songs, albums, genres, performers, which we can bridge into other people's worlds and enjoy with company.
Is there a song on this album that takes you back to a certain time in that summer? Give us like one song, one story.
Well, I mean, building the boat, sailing the seas is a bit like my own Into the Wild. Especially over the last year or two, it reminds me there is still a world out there. There's creativity and opportunities still to be had, even if it really doesn't feel like it right now. So projects like this can take me back to a person, place, and time instantly with such clarity. I love that. And song-wise, Sailor Song. It really encompasses what I yabbered on about just now, in particular the bridge in that song and the flow of the voice, words and music is a highlight moment for me. This song opens the album and instantly takes me back to Corsica and a floodgate of memories and emotions, so it has to be this one. And yeah, of course, there are more songs, but we can talk favorite tracks, music videos, and a scary as shit cliff jump over at the Life Is Peachy Patreon. From that moment we first met on the set of your first 10 past 6 music video to sitting in the studio recording Saturn Saw The Seaside, what's one core thing you've taken with you throughout your career that's remained true and constant?
Ah, wow. I think I've gone on this big arc, personally. I finished school in 2010. 2011 was like my gap year. I got out and actually saw the world and asked questions about myself and started to, I guess, become a grown-up and make my way in the world. And here where I am now, 10 years later in 2021, which is funny because Saturn Saw The Seaside is exactly 5 years.
5 years either end, dude.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I was like,
wow. Smack bang in the middle.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
It is this perfect arc because from leaving school, which was the time when I was in 10 past 6 and I met you 10 years ago, which is mental. Happy 10th anniversary, Dave.
you! Another anniversary celebration.
Mental. But it's this perfect arc and Saturn Saw The Seaside sits right in the middle of it. And for me, if you're asking about something that I've carried through in that first 5 years, it's a long time, man. I'm looking at this whole 10 years and who I was in 2011 and who I am now and who I've been in between, because who you are becomes the music that you make. And it's been a lot of different things.
Start the music.
Now I know you know I'm crazy and I love to dream. But there's no harm in living the life you love, so won't you live it here with me?
I think travel and change and finding myself was like the big thing in 2011. I was like opening my eyes to the world, and in the coming years I really changed a lot as a person. I've chilled out a lot. My views on the world have changed a lot as well, but in 2014, 2015, 2016, when Blue Child Collective was really getting going and we were doing amazing things like this, man, I had this idea about the world. The whole point of this music, of this project, was to like make the world a better place in like quite a proactive way. And I look back on that and think I would probably be a little bit more, well, these days I'm definitely more just like, here's what I do, this is how I live my life, and you know, whatever, you do you and I'll do me. Whereas I think maybe 5 years ago it was definitely a lot more intense than I am these days. I thought I had it all figured out, you know. Here's what I'm doing, and I think this is the way for everyone. The learnings I've had and the beliefs that I've formed and my idea of what good and bad is must be the way for everything. Whereas now I realise you can only speak for what you've experienced and you can't speak for what you haven't experienced. And definitely now I'm a lot more open-minded, just more chill about things, just happier doing my thing. You could say less preachy if you wanted to. Not knocking any versions of me that I have been, you know. This is me having my best crack at being the best version of me. But you ask if there's anything that I've carried between 10 past 6 playing punk music and this album, Saturn Saw The Seaside, as Blue Child Collective, playing fairly acoustic and folky and rootsy. I think it's just the beliefs about the world, and definitely younger me. Like, I'm only 28 now, man. Straight up acknowledge I've got shitloads to learn and plenty more years to come where I'll probably look back on this day and go, man, what was I thinking? That's going to happen, right? But I think I could have been a lot more open-minded to not knowing everything. And look, you do the best with what you know. I know I was doing that. They manifested as good and bad things. I put a lot of that into this album. I think you can hear it vocally, actually, in this album. Compared to what I'm doing now, it's quite pushy, my vocal style and where they sit in the mix, and from a different perspective to listen back to it, having changed as a person, because it's interesting. As an artist, you do things differently, but also as a person, you do things differently. So it's cool to listen back and reflect. I'm glad that we did it. It's fucking awesome, man. I still get people coming up and being like, man, that doco, that song. It goes back to that whole thing of everyone has their song or their album that speaks to them at the right point in their lives, and it's exactly what they need to hear. And everyone's at different points in their lives, man. So the fact that it's out there in the river, in the ocean, the universe, and someone's getting something out of it, I'm stoked. Would never undo any of it, because it was just such a great time, an amazing experience, and it was a lot of fun, and I ate a lot of croissants.
The tagline for this episode: I ate a lot of croissants.
You're drifting into gold, out of shade and into vertigo, to worlds we'll come to know. The process is called letting go.
The common threads that carry on still from Blue Child Collective through Brightsider, it's about enjoying yourself. I think Brightsider just became this thing of wanting to enjoy life and just look on the bright side.
You catapult through space and time. We're feeling to reflect the shine.
I know you love songs like Salt Spray, and it's good to talk about all aspects of life from a storytelling point of view, but I just wanted a project that was just fun. And some of the stuff we talk about, sure, shit aspects of life, but like you look at the bright side of them, I guess that's Brightsider. I mean, keeping it lighthearted, things got heavy every now and then with past projects, and I just wanted to have a fun outlet, you know?
As you chilled out, as you put it, so too did your creative output.
Totally. Yeah. These songs that we write, these documentaries we make, these bands that we're in, the movies we make, they're reflections of the people we are.
Yeah. Dude. Oh, it's been a pleasure looking back on Corsica with you and celebrating 5 years of Saturn Saw The Seaside. Thank you so much for your time and energy and joining the Life Is Peachy podcast.
Fuck yeah, likewise, man. Likewise.
There's a storm on the surface, but you'll be sleeping by the seaside soon.
And for real, man, I just want to thank you for always believing in me and instigating opportunities for myself and my world to really spread its wings. Even as far back as 6:10, bringing me over to the west coast of Australia and of course Corsica. These moments had huge impacts on the trajectory of my career and my life, and I mean it when I say it. I'm here today because of experiences like those.
Let me see, 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 let me see. Yeah, you're a ring on my finger, reflecting the sun I see in me.
I can't imagine my life without Corsica, and I'm forever thankful for that. It was honestly the ultimate storytelling experience.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Like, fuck. To have a documentary to watch, like I said, it's a window, man. It's
definitely
such a fucking gift. You've put together a story. The doco is like just, fuck, it's awesome. Watching it is just such a pleasure. It was a really special time, man, and same here. It was a massive turning point in my life. It was a mountain and we climbed it. I wouldn't be here if not for that as well, you know? Absolutely. Yeah. It was huge, bro. Plenty to come, eh?
Yo!
Yeah, let's go climb some more mountains.
I really want to wish all of you a very happy Merry Christmas, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Let's stay connected and keep sharing stories with each other. Feel free to let me know your Christmas plans or your New Year's plans, New Year's resolutions over on the Instagram post for this episode. All the best, honestly, and you are amazing. Life is peachy, and...
See you at the party, Richter! It all falls away. Now embrace the change. It all falls away. Here and now you wake. 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 Here and now you wake.
This episode was written, edited, and produced by myself, recorded from the comfort of my own home.
DIY style.
With each guest calling in from wherever they happen to be around the world at that particular time. The Life Is Peachy theme song is an original tune for this podcast, written by Tim Richardson. All music by the artist featured in this episode is used with permission. Further details can be found in the description of the specific episode. All artwork is original and illustrated for the Life Is Peachy podcast by Chris Lisa Liefting.